we are back with another episode of the Pissed Off Paralegal. And we just getting more and more pissed off because this week, as you know, if you're following the Idaho 4 case, Brian Koberger said he is actually innocent and wants to take back his plea. And I spiraled this week, Shandy. I don't know about you. What did you think when you heard that?
A lot of spiraling. WTF.
Yeah.
But not surprising. Likes to be the smartest one in the room, that one, I think.
I thought it was surprising. I wasn't expecting it. And it's funny because people always, when you argue about this case, because, you know, I'm on the other side. Shandy would be what you call a guilter. And I would be, I'm not a pro-burger,
no.
But that's what people call me because I'm not a guilter, but I am.
You toe the line.
I would say I'm a truther, okay? I want the truth. So yeah, that happened, and I was just like, oh my gosh. But with all that happening, other things are going on, such as you may have seen Cy Ray. Cy Ray was a expert for the defense on phone data. And before Brian Koberger came out and said he was taking back his plea, Cy Ray was out here on Custody Queen saying that Dr. Turvey was wrong and he didn't know what he was talking about, when I know Dr. Turvey's actually a forensic expert, whereas Cy Ray is a former law enforcement turned expert in phone data.
Yeah.
So
I saw 20 years in law enforcement. I saw he had in Arizona, I believe.
All right, let's take a look at this quick video with Cy Ray, and it's showing like his differing opinions. If you want my opinion.
Not only is there evidence of Brian Koberger being in the area of that house, there's evidence of him being on the property.
But you do agree that at least when you're looking at the cell phone data, geolocation, all of that information, you can't actually put him in the house during the time period that the crime took place.
Nope. And obviously, this would be a very different case and a very different discussion if they could. We could.
All right, so Cy Ray has obviously changed his tune. Okay.
Yeah.
This made me want to go down the rabbit hole of, reviewing his expert report, right? And we've kind of been looking at the expert report, and so let's get into it. All right, I decided maybe we should look at the PCA first, right? And Nick Balance's research that's all throughout this document. And it starts off, and if you don't know who Nick Balance was, he was a special agent, FBI agent that was certified in CAST, and that is some technique that's used to analyze cell phone data. So when he analyzed the cellular data, he said that, because they say that Brian Koberger left his house around 2:42, and that he says this because it pings to a cellular tower that is southeast of Brian Koberger's residence. Now, looking at Cy Ray's report, Cy Ray seems to think that tower can hit his home while he's there, so it doesn't really signify that he was actually traveling south.
Anywhere.
Yeah.
Or traveling at all, I guess.
Or traveling at all. So, and then I just want to add here that because of all this research I've done for fun, I know that the Honda Elantra mentioned earlier in this probable cause affidavit that leaves at 247 or wherever they see right in between 240 and 250 before the phone turns off. I know that car had fog lights, and there is a dispute on whether that car was actually his car because of the fog lights, and what is more evident that it's probably not his car is that they left that out of evidence for trial. So they left that video of that car the car with the fog lights out of the evidence for trial. So
Was it just that the fog lights were like off and you couldn't see them, or just they wouldn't have fog lights at all?
no, the fog lights were on that one, but no, Brian Koberger's car when it was recovered did not have fog lights
Period.
at all.
Okay.
The model he had didn't have fog lights. And so all this data of him leaving allegedly at 2:42, because they match it up with the tower, right? The tower southeast of his place, acting like that can't hit his place, right? So they match that up to try to say, oh, it's definitely a white Hyundai Elantra. And I personally think those are the only videos where it does look like a Hyundai Elantra. It just so happens to not be his. So, but nonetheless, so this is all saying all the movements of his phone touching these towers. He turns it off. So let's just look at this together with y'all. So at approximately 2:47, it stops reporting to the network, which is consistent with either a phone being in an area without coverage or a network being disabled, like the phone being turned off. And I believe this might be wrong too. I feel like one of the experts, and it's another rabbit hole we can go down at another time, but one of the experts for Brian Koberger said that the phone wasn't turned off until like 2:50 something. And this was just all in connection with them disproving these movements from his house. So.
And then there was the experts in the Netflix documentary that said he turned his phone off when he was at 100% charge.
That might be true. I don't know.
They said that too.
Yeah.
So when they...
But I mean...
Who knows?
You know, just for argument's sake, if I'm going out on a late night hike, stargazing alone, I want 100% charge as well. But I don't know why you turn your phone off. I will say that.
Wouldn't turn a phone off for that.
So, with that said, these movements, I would kind of disregard those. Anything before because like I say, I think it was like 4:50 when the phone was actually turned off. And these maybe you can go with. I don't know, because it's showing him traveling towards his home, back to Pullman, right? And it's just so coincidentally not long after these people were brutally murdered.
Mm-hmm.
So, but what really has been bugging me about this is we see, this is what Nick Balance says, his phone's utilizing all these resources consistent with leaving, coming home, and all this and that, and then they depict his movements. But this right here is what stands out to me. It says investigators found that the 8458 phone did connect to a cell tower that provides service to Moscow on November 14th, but investigators do not believe the 8458 phone was in Moscow on that date, and that it didn't connect to any towers since. So that makes me feel, Shandy, like his phone could connect to Moscow towers when he wasn't there, maybe before.
Yeah.
And I know if we keep going down, Nick Balance basically said that it touched the tower in the area of 1122 at least 12 times prior to November 13th. So
Right. Are they talking about the same cell tower there then? We don't know.
Yeah. Which cell tower was it? Because
no one's labeled the cell towers, it looks like.
well, this one says that provided coverage to the area of 1122. There's two towers. Yeah. Which tower?
Yeah, because we know that Moscow apparently has two cell towers. So yeah, which one? And was the other one? Was he talking about the other one in the paragraph above?
And then it says that all of these occurred in the late evening and early morning of their respective days. What if he's like always traveling to this place to go hiking or whatever at night? What if that just proves his own alibi? I don't know. So.
Or the stalking theory.
That is the other theory. Thank you for being here to provide
That's
that.
how I feel.
Or
That
he was,
could be
or he was just
You're
going.
stalking in those
But
early
you know
morning
why?
hours.
What we would need to know is, like, did the state also analyze the data, you know, to see where else he went, or were you just trying to see how often he was in that area, or was he passing through the area? Were you looking at the handoff data per se? Because we're gonna get into that. We're gonna go over and look
Yeah.
at Cyray's report.
But the Idaho Police Department also said that he would go to Moscow, into several stores there, restaurants there.
Yeah.
Where was his phone pinging while he was there?
Yeah.
I don't know. Which, obviously, one of those cell
Yeah.
towers, or
Wouldn't that have been-
both, or wouldn't it be both?
Would
maybe?
that have been during the day?
Those
And
one
did
would
you
be during the
leave-
day, maybe.
Did
unless
you leave
it was,
those pings out? You know, but maybe not, because I heard it was 23 pings to the area. So I don't know why it's only 12 occasions, but 12 occasions is the area of 1122. I don't know if all the Moscow towers provide coverage to 1122.
Right. We don't know
So.
that technically.
It's just like, you know, Shandy, I remember like when, like maybe a year, 2 years ago, going down a rabbit hole and looking up the cell towers that covered Moscow,
You did.
the AT&T
I
specifically
remember.
cell towers that covered Moscow, Idaho. So, okay. So let's go ahead and take a look at Cyray's report together after seeing how he feels. Actually, you know what? We should look at the other video we have of him, because he does say something that we're going to cover in the next, when we're going through his report. But maybe, actually, we'll go through the report first. Shandy, you actually had a really good point.
Okay, my point was, do we think, you know, the victims and even Dylan and Bethany, when they're home at King Road, where do their phones ping from? Like, would it be Moscow? Obviously, it'd be
Yeah.
Moscow. But
It'd be that.
could it be Pullman area as well?
Yeah.
Both cell towers in Moscow, one cell tower in Moscow. It's just interesting. I would be curious, since there's so much debate about the cell tower data, then how it cuts if you were at the King Road residence, because as we know, Cyray has also been saying we think that he's been
Yes, Cyrus.
at the property or in the property
Yeah.
or both.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
Just
And
something
you know,
to consider.
The video we watched at the beginning, now it like Cyrus says the phone wasn't in there during the time of the crimes, but he doesn't really speak to any other times. But now he's telling the family that he's been in there multiple times. It's just like, well, and you know, you don't expect it to be in this report. It's for the defense. So, but how is he getting that information if the data he was given was inaccurate? I mean, he had to do his own tests. We'll talk about him doing his own drive tests and stuff like that. So anyway, I remember at the beginning, though, someone said that Brian Koberger could be in his home and ping to the towers in Moscow. So, and I mean, that's believable because it's a very small distance between the two small college towns. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. But anyway, so Cyray, this is what the defense exhibit D11A, if you're looking for it. And this is just a synopsis of him getting the case. This is what the inventory, if you will, on what records he was given. And for whose records. Okay. He had all the victims. Jack Showalters, that stood out to me.
Why so?
Because, like, because of course you're going to look at Jack Showalters for the defense, because that's probably an alternate perp. You know, he had to present that theory, so he wanted to, like, analyze the data to see if this other person that was the last person to see the girls out maybe crossed paths with Brian Koberger and maybe collabed on something. Because before we knew about Brian Koberger, it looked like Hoodie Guy did, like, he was upset that they left, and then he left kind of in a hurry, and you're like, well, where was he going? Was he going to brutally murder them all? So, but I think it's interesting that they did look at his, and when we get through the report, you'll find that he didn't find that Brian Koberger crossed paths with any of the decedents or their cohorts. So he took phone records from everybody. Kaylee, I even saw Molly. Oh, I noticed this. Ethan Chapin, Verizon Records, unable to find a complete set of records for Ethan Chapin in the discovery provided to date. So that's weird. Why ain't y'all got Ethan's phone records, y'all? That's crazy.
Is it just because he had Verizon, and if everyone else had like other service providers,
why is
the timing is harder to get from one versus the other? I don't know.
I don't know. This wasn't filed till like 2025, so I don't know why he wouldn't have been able to get the records by then. And I do want to speak because that's weird for Ethan, because no one knows when they got home for sure. Like, we kind of can go off of the roommates' recollections, but they don't give any definitive time, right? So it's just their whereabouts that night. So just,
I guess Ethan and Xana's phone though would tell that story though.
That's what I'm saying. It's interesting that his phone records are missing.
Because there's no way they were walking into that home without their phones.
Bethany's was similar. Couldn't find her records. Molly McMichaels. Do you know who that is?
No.
The DoorDash driver.
Oh, Molly. Okay.
Yeah, that was important to pull. Boyfriend.
Yeah.
Oop.
That was also a suspected.
They didn't find his records either for his locations and stuff. But I mean, Jack, both the Jacks, they lived right there, right?
A lot of people lived right on that street or very close by to that street.
And then the other ones were the roommates, so it's like nothing would really look suspect, I think, when it comes to where they were. Because stuff on Jack's phone is suspect. Like, you had a call with these girls for a long time, and Ethan's getting texts saying that he's getting cheated on. So other stuff on the phone was weird. Dylan's going upstairs in the middle of the night, walking past Xana's body. That stuff's weird, but I'm just saying when it comes to the location in comparison to Brian Koberger and, like, you know, what's going on with where his movements are, this report is kind of covers that. Because anyway, so he talks about the type of data, because he gives an analysis on how he came to his conclusion, unlike Nick Balance's report, which I don't think we've seen. I was looking for it before we decided to do this, and all I've seen is them talk about it in the court paperwork. I don't think we've seen it. I was looking at the state's report, but I didn't get all the way through it, so maybe it's in there. I don't know. But nonetheless, it's summarized in the PCA, so we kind of know what Nick Balance found. So he says there's cell site, cell sector data, and this is a connection of sessions on your phone, right? And the location, it'll show what cell site you're pinging to, right? And if you're what I've gathered from what I read these two, the timing data and the cell, it's easier to target someone's location if they're in motion, right? Otherwise, maybe you're just pinging everywhere.
Yeah.
That's what from reading this, what I've come. I'm just a pissed off paralegal. I'm not a lawyer, but
it kind of makes sense though.
Yeah. If I'm wrong, please let me know. And then the AT&T historical precision location, information data. It's funny because precision's in the name, but it says ranges will vary from 25 to 30,000 meters. And he goes
Very
on
different.
to say, for example, you can be in Seattle and New Orleans at the same time based on precision location. So as I was saying, that is not very precise, right? That's very far away.
Not if you think I'm in Seattle when I could be in New Orleans.
Yeah. No. So he goes on to say, like, if you use all three types, that you get the most accurate data for where someone is in space and time. But the balance, he doesn't know the methodology that he used, so he ends up doing his own analysis, like what's called a drive test, where he kind of drives around to see where he's connecting. And he's looking for connections between Brian Koberger and any of the deceased or associates, all right? And that's why I was saying it's interesting that he had the other people's, because those are key people. You want to know if, did he know them at all? Molly or Jack Showalter. And he was looking for, when he was looking for this, he goes on to say that he didn't find a connection of them calling any of the same places other than a U-Haul dealership, which is of no real concern, all right? Mm-hmm. And then to see if they interacted by being in the same place at the same time between the parties, any parties of interest. And he said that no, not at all. With the exception of slides 26 and 30, which, y'all, I wanted to look for before I did this podcast, but it's just, when you go through the documents, it's so much. I don't even know if I can find Nick Balance's report or if it's out or anything. All right. But he does say he's found locations that Mr. Koberger and the deceased frequented in common stores located in a small community.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
He's unable to pinpoint any time periods that indicate any persons of interest could have come into direct contact in these common locations, which is weird because I felt like I thought they said him and Bethany's phone were in a spot that within hours of each other or something on the same day.
I didn't hear that one.
Mm-hmm. That's old. See, I'm a day one. I know all this stuff that is useless to my life, but so again, from June 23rd to November 13th, his device was not in any of the same specific areas as any of the deceased mobiles. So if he's able to tell that, then was he really stalking these people, or was he leaving his phone at home?
I have theories that, like, he could have seen Maddie or Xana at the Greek restaurant where they worked,
but when
and
his
like
phone,
followed them home sometime. Maybe
their phones would have come across each other because they weren't in that area very long. It was like from when school started to November 13th, right? That's like June to November. That's like 4 or 5 months, right? So. And maybe he did go to the Mad Greek, but from what Ray had previously said, he didn't find any data where they crossed paths like that. So that's what I'm saying. If Brian Koberger saw them there, there's no reason for his phone to be off while he's at the Mad Greek.
Very true. Not really. Yeah. Not if that's when you first decide that you want them to be a victim or something. But
he doesn't ever put, like, the daytimes. Like, he only says, Nick Balance only says about the night times when Brian Koberger was in there. It's not the daytimes.
Very true. Yeah.
The one I was talking about with Bethany, that was during the day. So, again, there's like, I don't know where the mention of 23. I just remember that. They said the phone pinged because they used to say, the phone pinged within 100 meters of the house 23 times. But the phone tower is within 100 meters of the house. And you can be in other places and ping from that phone tower. So, All right, we had a briefly interrupted moment by my cat, my wet cat. He was getting rained on, came in and started rubbing on us. So, but nonetheless,
I mean, do you think that's why this could be like almost a perfect crime in a way to pick a place like this where it's like, okay, the cell towers are all so aligned that it'd be so. That's why it's so hard to decipher, and it's like, okay.
No, I don't know. I think it didn't work out for him in this situation because the police were able to use it to get probable cause, right? And then he didn't go to trial. In trial, I don't know how this unfolds, right?
Yeah,
so,
we don't know.
And then he says he's unable to identify any patterns that would be consistent to Mr. Kohlberger frequent in locations. Like, if you're saying that in this report, how are you now saying something that's completely opposite? That's what I don't get. When it comes to Cyree.
Yeah.
And it's not a good look, Cyree, after you coming out attacking Turvey, who is a forensic expert on his expertise, and then you're over here flip-flopping on your expertise. I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone's asked him yet.
You have a
what
theory.
Changed.
You have a theory.
Oh, my theory was, with the civil case with Washington State University, are they using Cyree in that case for some discovery stuff? And is that where
who do you think they is? The family.
Oh, the families. Yeah, the families of the victims, I think. Did they enlist him in any which way?
Because now they're out here doing interviews with them.
And seem...
Speaking of, let's take another look. Because before I move on from them being in the same space and time, there was this video.
Like the different locations, or
Maddie was the target. I believe Maddie is who he interacted with earlier. There's some other things that kind of support that. I hope a lot of this comes out at some point. I think
we're on the panel.
Why do you say some things to support that? Is that the cell phones?
Yeah, there's a lot more collisions between Brian's phone and Maddie's phone than any of the other victims. And what I'm saying about collision is they start to occupy the same space at the same time. And there is a little bit more of a pattern to that than with the other victims.
And what do you mean? I don't even have all the data in front of you, but the different locations, or like what?
I want to say August 28th, but I could be wrong if that's a Sunday. The first Sunday after the full week of school starting in August. It's Maddie's phone that I think interjects with his phone in Pullman, and this is the apartment complex right next to Brian's. And they start off at like the student center at WSU, and then they move up to an apartment complex. And I think there was an interaction there that could have been the first crossing of paths. There's multiple times around the house that A&W over time, but consistently it's more with Maddie than the other roommate at that point.
He dips into his fantasy fund, and Kaylee's up here. And it was like that's the moment he's going to plan this murder, and she's still down there, and Kaylee's up here hanging out with us. So I totally agree. But I can't say that in a forum.
And you guys know better than I would. I think the fact that Kaylee is in the same bed as Maddie that night is somewhat of a fluke. Like, right, that wasn't something he could have predicted. So what I believe starts as a targeted one victim thing very quickly rolls into two. I think Xana interrupted that, and I think there's but look.
All right, so like
that makes sense to me, but where's that coming from?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, though.
Yeah, we just got done looking at this man's report, and it says the complete opposite. So he was maybe lying on the reports, or is he lying now?
Or did he get more information now, but he's kind of being very coy about it. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I hope it all comes out. Well, why can't it come out right now?
I'm going to tell you.
What are we waiting for?
Why I don't like his theory.
Oh.
I don't like the focus on, I just
Maddie?
Can't believe that a person, a pervert, is what they're trying to make him seem like, right? He's obsessed with this girl, would risk it all with 6 people for this one girl. Why not isolate her? That's usually what predators do. So I just don't buy that theory at all. But All right,
There's a lot of predators, though, on the flip side that do sneak into, like, full houses full of families. And
maybe.
Like, I mean, there was Elizabeth Smart, and there's just... She was a little girl when that creep snuck in.
He's crazy, yeah.
So, like, I don't know. It's not so far-fetched.
He's like a crazy survivalist guy, though. Like
that guy, yeah. It's not so far-fetched to me, though, to think maybe he just thinks everyone else that late would be sleeping, and I could just beeline it upstairs, especially if he was in there lying in wait before. I don't know.
It's not worth it. For one girl, get her by herself. But again, if it was... Did he say it was Kaylee he was after?
No, Maddie. So
okay.
Kaylee was with her parents leading up to that time and was about to be...
right?
Dipped out completely of Idaho. So for her to be there that night was more of an unusual thing.
So he's still risking it all with 5 people if he's... I don't know. Okay. Right, so we are moving on to the next section, his drive tests. All right. We tried to make sense out of this. He explains his methodology, of course, because a good expert will. And he talks about the software that's used. All right. So I'm not going to pretend to be an expert when reading these maps. But this says this is drive test data. Coverage area is going to be gray. Says when mapping the results of the drive test for one specific tower, that coverage area for the tower is represented by the colored area on the map. So when we go down, that's what you'll be able to see, right? All right. From what we gathered when we went through this, I'm not going to go slow on this. I'm just going to kind of scan, but it seems like he is explaining that the FBI's coverage area was not encompassing enough. It should have covered more of an area because it provided service to bigger areas. Because, like, this is the one where he's, like, leaving at 2 whatever, right? That they say he connected to this tower. There's his house. But if you read on, he believes that that tower that he connected to... Oh, wait, this is the 4 o'clock ones or later. Anyway, he talks in here that he believes that he could be here and still connect to this tower when they tried to say this... He was traveling here before the phone cut off. Like, maybe he cut his phone off while he was still home. We don't know.
Maybe.
And then we really don't know the man's movements other than the grainy footage of the Hyundai that we have. So, yeah, that's what basically the rest of this does. I'm not going to get into the GAR drive test and all that, but I just wanted to point out, like, from hearing what Cyray's been talking about this week, I feel like it just really contradicts what he put in his report. And, I mean, again, he was working for the defense, but where did he get the information that he's repeating now in the media?
Yeah, with the Maddie stuff, because that's new.
And you said
Where
that
did
maybe,
it come from?
like you said, maybe he's involved in the civil case.
Yeah, I don't know.
And was able to get more data that the police didn't have access to in the 3 years that they had the case, or 4 years that they had the case. I don't know.
Well, how I understand it, the civil cases, you could get more discovery and things happening. So it wouldn't surprise me if that could be the reason. Because what else could it be?
How can you get more in civil than you can in criminal?
I don't know. I've heard that. I don't know if that's true.
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe civil firms are more equipped to go through all that discovery.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. Because he had a public defender. But still, I mean, with regards to Cyray, I guess he went through what he was given, but it just doesn't make sense. One, that he'd be out here lying, like, all over the place.
Yeah, no one's saying that, because if you believe him as a professional, then you'd be like, okay, he must have found out something else.
But he does have some suspect stuff that he's saying, like how they did cross paths when before you said they did not cross paths.
Yeah.
It made it seem in the report like you had already analyzed that data and you didn't find that. So,
Or could it be that Maddie's parents subpoenaed her records more and gave them over to him?
no, but I'm saying in his own report, he doesn't say that he didn't have access to it. He just says he didn't find any of them crossing paths.
True, yeah. I'm just wondering if he got more data somehow.
Well, I think up at the top above, when you see the inventory, he got some of the raw data, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I went way too far. But great. All right, back to the inventory.
Mm-hmm.
Created a master folder to preserve all the raw data in my work. My files created derived from my analysis. Digital format of this folder will be provided with this report. AT&T raw files. And then they report from AT&T. All right. But yeah, so I realized that I did not record the end of our session with me and Shandy, so I am here just to tell you all thank you for listening. Hopefully this was not too confusing or boring, and you will tune in again. Thank you for joining us at the Pissed Off Paralegal.